Howdy, 8th grade. We are looking at something we've actually done before today, so I'm hoping to keep this video fairly short, even if it is a graphing video. So the hope here is that we're going to be solving quadratic equations by graphing them. So we've solved quadratics by factoring them before, and we have graphed quadratic equations, so we're just kind of mixing those two together, and we're solving them by graphing. So what a quadratic is, just a little bit of review, is that a quadratic looks like quadratic. Yes, I did spell that right. Oh, good. It looks like 0 equals a, there should be an a there, ax squared plus bx plus c. So we've got some x squared, some number of x, and then a constant at the end, that equals 0. So it's kind of hard to graph this. So when we graph, let's stick with the same color. When we graph, we're going to change that 0, and we're going to make it y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and that just gives us kind of something to graph. Otherwise we can't graph it unless we already know what x is. We're trying to solve it by graphing, so if we would need the solution to graph, that'd make it very, very difficult and secular and bad. So what the solution is, one way we can find the solution, so we have found solutions by factoring before. Factoring, and what that does is we end up with, let's say x minus 3 times x plus 5 equals 0. And what we end up with there is we know these two things multiplied together equals 0, so one of them would be 0. This would mean that if x minus 3 equals 0, x would be 3. Or if x plus 5 is 0, x is negative 5. So that's how we would do it by factoring. But now we're going to try graphing it. So let's get an equation real quick and graph it and see what the solution is. So if I'm trying to find x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0, what I want to do is to first set it equal to y. So first we're going to set it equal to y. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals y. And then we're going to start graphing. So we're going to make our xy plot and graph. So I'm going to get a nice blank screen to go ahead and start doing that. So it's, let's see, y equals x squared plus 3x minus 10. I'll put that way up top. And now I'll have some room to work down here. Make my xy chart right here. I love starting with 0 and 1, and I'll go ahead and put my graph over here too, so we can do that. Give me 1 second to put some tick marks on here. Okay, so we're going to start with x is 0. So if I plug in 0 for x, I get y equals 0 squared, which is 0, plus 0 minus 10. It's going to be all the way down at negative 10. I'm not sure I put enough tick marks on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's where my first point is going to be. I'm going to do all my points in this wonderful pink color. And then I'm going to plug in 1 for x. And if I plug in 1, I'm going to get 1 squared is 1. Plus 3 times 1 is 3. Minus 10. So 1 plus 3 is 4. Minus 10 is negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My next point would be right here. This is very, very steep. That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put those numbers in. My y is negative 10, negative 6. So it looks like I'm getting pretty close to a 0 over here. So I'm going to try an x of 2 and see what happens. 2 squared is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 plus 6 is 10. So that's from here and here. And then I subtract my 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. Awesome. I get a 0. So I should be able to put that right here. And if we look, it starts at kind of a steep slope, but then it gets even steeper. So I'm going to go backwards to see if I can get that to even out. So instead of 0, let's try negative 1 and see what happens. So negative 1 squared is 1, and 1 plus 3 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12. This needs to go back down even more. Wow. I'm getting close to the bottom though. Because if we'll notice, it's getting less steep. So if we'll look, right here it only went up 2, here it went up 4, here it went up 6. So we're getting pretty close to where the bottom ought to be. So let's try one more of these. So I said -1 gave me -12. Let's try -2 and see what that gets me. So -2 is going to get me, if I plug it back in up here, -2 squared is 4. 4 plus -2 times 3 is -6. So I have -6 plus 4 is -2, minus 10 is -12 again. So this is going to be -12 one more time, which is going to be right here, trying to make sure that's lined up. And if we look, now all of a sudden we are flat. That's weird. It's all right though, because if we're flat, that means I know where my line of symmetry is. It's just going to be right up through here. And if I know where my line of symmetry is, that means it's really easy to graph. So 1 away from my line of symmetry, I was at -12. 2 away, I was at -10. 3 away, I was at -6. And 4 away, I was at 0. So we should always, always, always try to use our line of symmetry when we can, because it can make our life a lot easier. And after that, I have my quadratic graphed. But again, we only care about where y equals 0. So where y equals 0 is going to be this point here and that point there. So y equals 0 when, and then we want to figure out what x is. So here x is 2, and over here I have x equals -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have x equals 2 or x equals -5. And that's how I would solve this using graphing. Just graph it, make sure we're using our line of symmetry because it makes our life a lot easier. And then find the zeros. And just like that, we're done. So I said I'd keep it kind of short. It's only about 7.5 minutes. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.